Sink is hanging below the flood level rim. The food grater was dirty. A dirty wiping towel was on a cutting board and contaminating the food surface. A hand sink was not draining. There was no soap or paper towels at the hand sinks in the kitchen or in the restrooms. Raw fish was stored in a plastic shopping bag. The gaskets on the cooler were broken. Shelving had dirty, damaged, and unsealed particle board. Foam was exposed on the interior door of the reach-in cooler. There were no sanitizing test strips available. Staff did not have certified food handler certificates. The inspector notes, due to the number and the nature of the violations, management did not show proper food safety knowledge. In addition to the temporary closure, a reinspection fee was issued because of repeat violations. The facility was allowed to reopen after the reinspection. Rita's Donuts at 6012 82nd had 20 violations. Here's a look at their priority violations. Ready-to-eat kolaches and potatoes were not hot enough. Raw chorizo was stored above ready-to-eat salsa. The cook cracked raw eggs and then continued to make a burrito without washing their hands. Glass cleaner was stored next to food items. An employee washed their hands in the mop sink. There were eggshells in the hand sink and a broom was in the hand sink. Hand sinks are for hand washing only to prevent cross-contamination. Several food contact surfaces or utensils were broken or damaged. They must be kept in good repair. A non-food grade hose with a garden-type sprayer was connected to the 4-compartment sink. Food handler certifications were not available for all staff, and the 2 certified food manager certifications had expired. The inspector notes, due to the number and the nature of the violations, management did not show proper food safety knowledge. The report shows most violations were corrected while the inspector was there. Benjamin Donuts at 11814 Indiana had 10 violations. Here's a look at their priority violations. Multiple food items in the cooler, including kolaches, burritos, and cooked eggs, were above the safe cold temperature of 41 degrees. The ambient temperature was above 50 degrees. The thermometer inside the cooler was broken. Eggs were stored above milk. The magnetic knife holder was dirty. An insect spray not approved for a food establishment was in the facility. There was only hand sanitizer and not soap available at a hand sink. A spatula was damaged. The report shows most violations were corrected at the time of the inspection. Now to the good news. Here's a look at this week's top performers. Jimenez y Friends Barbecue y Taqueria at 4606 34th. Nirvana Burger and Taco Villa at 13206 University. You can check out the full list of violations on our website at kcbd.com. Just click on Food for Thought. Karen, back to you.
Thank you, Christy.